but easier to tend to, and I'd like to welcome everyone. I think before we start and do our member introduction, Secretary Ward is going to make some comments, and leave it up to you. You can
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
have some time, right?
Well, I will be quick, I promise, but I'm Wes Ward, Secretary here at the department, and great to have the board here, and just want to welcome y'all here to the Department of Agriculture. I won't go into a long spiel about what all we do at the department, but the plant board and plant industry division is an incredibly important piece of that, and a large piece of that. So you've got incredible responsibilities, and you've been trusted with a lot of responsibilities, and we're here to help you with that as much as we can. So just want to offer for myself, from our team at the Department of Agriculture, don't hesitate anytime that you need something to reach out to any of us. We're here for you. We're here to help in any way that we can. So Scott does an excellent job. He's got a great team, and we'll do introductions and go over all that everyone does. But just want to welcome you and just let you know that we're resources for everyone. Happy to help with anything that you need. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
Secretary Ward. Well, we'll just go ahead and introduce the board members. We'll just go around the table and let everyone tell us who you are, who you represent, where you're from, and then we'll send the smaller crowd. We may do the audience introductions as well. But we'll just start with you, Mr. Thorne.
My name is Robert Thorne. I'm from Marion, Arkansas, Crittenden County, in horticulture, landscape, professional landscaping for, I guess say commercial landscaping for the last 18 years. And I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve on this board.
Sammy Angel, Chico County, Lake Village, 4th generation farmer, represent seed producers.
George Dunklin in Arkansas County, just south of Stuttgart on our farm and on the Forestry Commission. Glad to be here.
Yeah, Travis Center, Northeast Arkansas, near Wilson, Mississippi County, representing farmers.
Nathan Slayton, located in Fayetteville, representing the University of Arkansas Division of Agriculture.
Robin Ralston, Atkins, Arkansas, wholesale, retail, and field.
John Durham, Chico County, and the timber business in Ashley County and Drew County, forestry and equipment center.
Reynold Meyer, Eudora, Arkansas, Grand Lake, really, down in Chico County, representing Arkansas cattlemen.
I'm Ken Korth, representing University of Arkansas Division of Agriculture, and I'm stationed in Fayetteville.
Garrett Frost, Mariana, Arkansas, representing agriculture aviation.
David Gamble, Mississippi County, Poinsett County, farmer, wheat, feed, grains, and corn.
Bruce Hofford, Louisville, Lafayette County, and I'm here representing forage.
I'm Sam Stuckey from Clarkdale, farming Poinsett, Crittenden, and Mississippi County, and I represent cotton.
I'm Matthew Marsh. I'm here in Little and I represent the Arkansas rice growers.
I'm Scott Bray. I'm the Director of the Plant Industries Division and the Director of the State Plant Board, Department of Ag.
I'm Courtney Spinks, the University of Arkansas Division of Ag, Pesticide Safety Education.
Les Bradley, University of Arkansas Division of Ag. I'm a pesticide assessment specialist.
I'm Linda Alford from Louisville, Arkansas, and I'm a board member spouse.
Caleb Allen, Arkansas Department of Agriculture.
Mike Staves, Department of Agriculture.
David Ford, Arkansas Department of Agriculture.
Seth Dunlap, Arkansas Department of Agriculture. Paul Shell, also Arkansas Department of Agriculture.
Christina LaRue, agriculture reporter, Arkansas Democrat.
Calvin Castle, attorney for the Arkansas Bull Eradication Foundation.
Christina Coleman, and I'm the executive director for Arkansas Bull Eradication Foundation.
Steve Barron, Arkansas Oil Marketers.
And Wilbur Jones, I'm the supervisor of the Children's Division for Shared Lab Services.
Andy Lyman, Department of Agriculture, Marketing and Communications.
Donna Wilkerson, Arkansas Department of Agriculture.
Wade Hodge, Chief Counsel, Department of Agriculture.
I'm Lily Browder, Arkansas Department of Agriculture. Dana Jones, Department of Agriculture.
Mark Stoll, Arkansas Department of Agriculture. Tim Chester, Department of Agriculture. Nick Soler, Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Standards.
Randy Reynolds, Arkansas Department of Agriculture.
Lee Gibson, Arkansas Department of Agriculture. Susie Nichols, Arkansas Department of Agriculture, pesticide section.
All right, thank you. And I've, we missed two board members, I think, that are on Zoom. Kyle Baltz, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm Kyle Baltz, I'm from Pocahontas, and I'm representing the fertilizer.
Thank you, Kyle. And Mr. Miles?
Yes, sir. I'm Matt Miles, farmer from Desha County, McGee, Arkansas, representing farmers.
I think you got everyone accounted for, and again, just thank you for your participation, and we'll continue on with the agenda. I think Director Bray has some introductions with director of the department.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, good morning, everybody, and I just want to reiterate what Secretary Ward and the Chairman said. We really welcome you to this meeting and plant board, and we really appreciate your willingness to serve on this board. We want to take the next little bit and introduce ourselves to some of the newer members and reintroduce ourselves to some of the members that we haven't seen in a while. I'm going to give just a general overview of how we are organized as a department and how we are organized as a division within that department, a little bit of the history of how we got here. And then I'm going to introduce some of the section managers one at a time and let them come up and give just a general overview of their section and some of the programs they operate and the work that they do, and introduce a few key staff supervisors so some of you can kind of put a face to the name. So, again, my name is Scott Bray. I am the director of the Plant Industries Division within the department. I also serve as the director of the State Plant Board. I also serve as the lead administrator of the Soybean Promotional Board, and I also serve as the lead administrator of the Corn and Grain Sorghum Promotional Board. I've been employed here with the department for 30 years. I started out as a field inspector within the pest control section, and I've just worked my way up through supervisory roles over the years into the director of the division and the director of the board. I have been very blessed in the last 30 years. I've had excellent leadership in front of me the whole time from 93 to 23. And I've had excellent coworkers. I've never in 30 years, I can honestly say this, had an issue with another coworker. It's just been a pleasure to work here. And I have been most of all blessed as a supervisor with a great staff. And I mean that all the way up to today. We have one of the best staffs I've known in 30 years. They want to be here. They appreciate being here, and they know their job very well, and they really do good work for this board and for the citizens of Arkansas. A little history of the department and how we got where we are today. Prior to 2005, we were known as Plant Board, and that was kind of a dual name situation. The board of directors was known as the Plant Board, and the agency was known as the Plant Board. And that was that way for 100+ years. And it was always a little confusing when someone was talking about the plant board. Are you talking about the board of directors? Are you talking about staff in the agency? So in 2005, the Arkansas Agriculture Department was established. It was created and primarily created for agricultural marketing services. And for several years, nothing really changed with the functionality of the plant board. In 2019, Act 910 was established, was passed, and what that did is it created the Department of Agriculture. It's a cabinet level department, and it rolled in several other boards and commissions that previously were kind of standalone on their own. There was a State Board of Professional Soil Classifiers, State Board of Registered Foresters, the Arkansas Veterinary Medical Examining Board, the Arkansas Forestry Commission, the Arkansas Livestock and Poultry Commission, the Arkansas Natural Resource Commission, and the Arkansas State Plant Board, all rolled up in under the Department of Agriculture. And as a result of that, the department was organized into primarily 5 big divisions within the department. So we have Plant Industries, which is us, formerly known as the Plant Board. The director is myself, Scott Bray. We have the Forestry Division, formerly known as the Forestry Commission. The director over there currently is Kyle Cunningham. We have the Livestock and Poultry Division. The director over there is Patrick Fisk. We have our Natural Resources Division, the director over there being Chris Colclasure. And then we have our Shared Services Division, and the director of that is Deputy Secretary Cynthia Edwards. And just a quick note on that Shared Services division, they provide services out to all of the other divisions. Fiscal, Human Resources, IT, Legal, Law Enforcement, Marketing, Lab Services, all that is organized under that Shared Services Division, and they provide, like I said, work out to all the other divisions. This year in July of 23, there was some more legislation that further impacted the structure of the department. And what that did is it just reduced the number of boards and commissions that fall under the oversight of the department to 4 primary boards. This one, the State Plant Board, the Forestry Commission, the Livestock and Poultry Commission, and the Natural Resources Commission. All of the other boards and commissions that were previously under the Ag Department were either abolished or rolled in under the authority or the oversight of one of these 4 primary boards. How this legislation in 2023 affected this board, just a real short overview of that. The plant board remains at 19 members. The terms for new members was increased from 2 years to 5 years. So all of the new members that have just been recently appointed have a 5-year term. The other members are still on 2-year cycles. The Arkansas Boll Weevil Eradication Foundation Board will serve as a subcommittee of the plant board. And to address that just very briefly, and I'm going to use my own terminology and understanding, you know, the Boll Weevil Foundation has always fallen under the oversight of the plant board. And previously we had a plant board subcommittee or a plant board committee that would handle regulatory business for the Boll Weevil board. So this legislation actually designates what was the Boll Weevil board, and it still is the Boll Weevil board, but it's also designated as a subcommittee of this plant board. And it assigns the cotton grower on this plant board to be on that subcommittee Boll Weevil board, and that is Mr. Sam Stuckey. So going forward, when we establish and we talk about subcommittees, which I'll get to in a little bit, that will serve as the Boll Weevil subcommittee of this board. And then there was the Arkansas Seed Arbitration Committee that was abolished, and those duties were assumed by the department. And then there's Abandoned Pesticide Advisory Board, and that board was abolished, and those duties have been assumed by the department. And we're going to get a report on that abandoned pesticide program coming up shortly from Susan. So that's kind of how the department is organized, and a few things that have impacted the department over the years. Moving down a little deeper into division organization, we here at the Plant Industries Division, we're organized into 5 sections. We have our pesticide section, and the manager of that is Susie Nichols. We have our regulatory services section, manager of that, Mark Stowe. We have a quality control and compliance section, manager Mike Stage, and we have a Bureau of Standards section, manager of that is Nick Solomon, and then we have an inspection services section, which is a large group of field inspectors we have, which some of you have probably interacted with over the years. And the manager of that is David Ford. And I'm going to get to each one of these in a minute and ask them to come up and introduce themselves and give just a general overview of their section and what they do. But as a division, we conduct work activities in more than 50 different diverse programs. Our staffing levels average around 120. We have approximately 60 field inspectors at any given time. And general oversight division comes from myself and down to the section manager, and then their program managers and supervisors. You as a board, y'all have established rules for us in more than 20 different laws that have a wide range of agricultural products, practices, pests. And our division, our group, we administer those rules and on behalf of you. You also establish and help us with administrative penalties and for violations. So we manage the enforcement program. We manage enforcement actions based on the Administrative Procedures Act, guidance from the board. And when we finalize enforcement policy or enforcement action, we bring them to this board for final disposition, final approval. And then if we have an enforcement situation that we cannot settle or finalize at the staff level for your final approval, we'll bring it to you as a hearing. Typically, the way this board has always functioned and operated is through subcommittees. We used to have 13, but a year or so ago with the previous board, we worked that down to 9. And the way the subcommittee usually works, and the way it works traditionally is by your bylaws, the board meets quarterly. And any business that needs to be done within a specific program is done through committees between those meetings. Staff, when we realize we need business, we'll contact the committee chair and we'll set a meeting and the committee will conduct business. They'll do everything from hearing actions to just giving guidance to staff, discussion of initiating rulemaking, so on and so forth. And then the committee will report that meeting and that action and a recommendation back to the full board at the next meeting. And then the board will decide how you want to go from there. And so as far as the committees, the way we have them established is we have one for regulatory services. We have a feed, fertilizer, and lime committee, a pest control committee, a public grain and warehouse and seed committee, a pesticide committee, and a little note there on the difference between pest control and pesticide. So when I refer to pest control, that is our structural and ornamental pest control program. And that involves regulatory oversight of businesses and entities that provide pest control services like termite work, household pests, lawn care services, things like that. When we refer to our pesticide program, that is the program that deals with all pesticide registration, ag-related, mostly pesticide investigations. That is our EPA grant where we do work with worker protection inspection, things like that. We have a Bureau of Standards committee. We have a boll weevil committee. We had a boll weevil committee. We still have a boll weevil committee. Like I explained a minute ago, the boll weevil board will also serve as that subcommittee. And then we have an industrial hemp subcommittee. Any questions from anybody? Good, thank you. So before I transition to the section managers, I did not put the inspection services manager on the agenda because I wasn't sure he was going to be here, but he is here, and I do want to introduce him to you. If you'll stand up, David Ford. Some of y'all may know David, but David oversees a group of 30 field inspectors. They're situated throughout the state. Quick note, we do have other smaller groups of inspectors that you'll hear about that will specialize in pest control or weights and measures inspection, petroleum sampling, apiary, things like that. This group are typically what we refer to as our ag specialists, and they provide inspection services out to all of the other sections. And I'm not going to go through this bullet point by bullet point, but I'll show you, you can see all these bullet points that I have for the different sections. This is a very diverse group of inspectors, and they do everything from pesticide investigation to worker protection inspections, to trapping for invasive species, collecting feed samples, collecting seed samples, collecting fertilizer samples. The list goes on and on. One thing that has been introduced to them over the last year, we started this about a year ago with H2A worker housing inspections. This is the group that conducts those inspections, and you'll hear more about that program in a minute from Mark. And if anybody has any questions, we can talk in more detail about that. Just a quick note about this group. Their workload has increased more so over the last few years, probably than any other group up here. They've gone from pesticide complaints in 2010 to 189, to skyrocketing in 2017 to 1,300, and then averaging 450 or so for the last few years. So their complaint workload has gone up. And then in addition to that, the H2A inspections, I think they've conducted more than 1,000 home inspections in the last year on behalf of the H2A program. So they've done a great job for us. They've done a lot of work for us. They're a really good group. And with that, unless anybody has any questions, we'll move on to the section managers. So any questions for me?
Is that information in this packet?
Yeah, I'm glad you come. Y'all have before you a binder, and in that binder is just general information. You're going to hear a lot of that from the section manager today. We got a little more detail in there. We've actually got maps of where these inspectors are located. We've got an organizational chart of the division. We've got contact information for myself and the section manager. So feel free to look through that. We also have a directory for you all, contact information for each of you, and that will probably evolve. And I would ask you all to look at that and make sure we've got your phone numbers right and your emails right. I think we've got it. Any changes you want to suggest to that, just go ahead and let me know. If we're good, I'll move on to the section now. Thanks.
Good morning. I am Stacey Nichols. I am the section manager for the pesticide section. I've been with the agency 20 years next month. I'm going to just give y'all a brief overview of what the pesticide section does for y'all who don't deal with me a lot. I talk quickly, so if you need me to slow down, raise your hand. The pesticide section is responsible for implementing pesticide registration, licensing, enforcement, flood protection, groundwater, endangered species, and abandoned pesticide program. Before a pesticide can be sold, it must be registered in the state of Arkansas. We register approximately 15,000 to 16,000 pesticides a year. In order to sell and use pesticides, dealers and applicators must obtain a license with the pesticide section that includes testing and training. We license approximately 400 pesticide dealers, 6,000 private applicators, 1,000 commercial applicators, 600 non-commercial, and 400 commercial firm applicators. That's the air and ground guys. We also maintain over 19,000 active private applicator licenses. This section is also responsible for taking enforcement actions against those who fail to comply with the laws and rules. Complaints are investigated by the inspection service section, reviewed and assessed by the pesticide section staff. Enforcement actions are taken in a fair and equitable fashion, and that those enforcement actions are outlined in the section's enforcement response penalty regulations. This section also implements the abandoned pesticide program, which we'll get a more detailed update on later in the agenda. This program holds approximately 10 countywide collection events per year. This program is designed to remove old agricultural pesticides from the environment. This is free to the public. The Endangered Species Program is intended to protect and promote the recovery of animals and plants that are in danger of becoming extinct due to the activities of people. To implement this program, staff refers to labels and the endangered species bulletins that are in place for the public to reference. The Worker Protection Program protects both workers and handlers who use pesticides on a daily basis. And the Groundwater Program, we monitor groundwater in areas where it's considered vulnerable, and we basically assess contamination levels, and we report that, and we work with the Department of Health on that. Those are just some quick topics. If you've got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I've got to introduce two of my staff here today. Lee Gibson is the manager of enforcement in the pesticide section. Brandy Reynolds covers the abandoned pesticide program, endangered species, worker protection, product registration. She's also a manager. We have another manager that's not here today. That individual is over the licensing program. Any questions? Thank
Thank you, Susie. I also want to mention, I didn't earlier when I was talking about our inspector group and how the rise in pesticide complaints impacted them. That also impacted this group as well. And they had a lot of work on their hands, and they've done a really good job of managing that load. And the next one up deck is Mark. So,
Morning, I'm Mark So, I'm the section manager for regulatory services section. Like Scott said, our section is in your booklet there. So a lot of what I say is in there, probably more in depth. Kind of give you an overview. Regulatory services section provides diverse program services for Arkansas agriculture-related industries and individuals. Our mission is to provide an avenue of proper regulations of plant disease, plant pests, food safety, and pest control, which perpetuates quality products and services to the public and regulated industries. Give you a little information about regulatory services. We have 33 full-time employees, and we utilize about 85 to 90 extra help each year. 10 of those full-time employees are stationed here in this office, and then 13 of those are in Jonesboro at the peanut shelter. And the remaining 10 are field staff consisting of our produce safety team, which has 3. The apiary inspectors, we have 2 of those that cover the state, and then our pest control inspectors, and we have 5 of those. And that's our field staff. We also have some of the members present today. Donna, if you'll stand up. Donna handles H2A, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And she also does licensing, invoices, and probably about anything else that we handle if you've got part in it all. Paul Shell is behind you there. Paul is our nursery and landscaping, does plant pest quarantine and ginseng, import fire ants, and phytosanitary certificates. And then also present today, we have Seth Dunlap, who manages our pest control program. Then we have various, thanks for standing up, introductions. We have a few that aren't present. And, but I do want to brag about staff. We just recently hosted a 97th National Plant Board meeting earlier this month in Little Rock. Meeting had representations from Custom Border Protection, USDA, APHIS, PPQ, and then National Plant Board. We had 144 attendees, 42 states and Canada represented. And my team did excellent going through getting everybody situated, organizing and everything, and collecting door prizes. Ralston Farms donated one of those, so thank you for that. That was great. So kind of brag about that a little bit. Regulatory Services oversees 15 different programs, and I'll say it's a little bit more than that. First one I'm going to mention is H2A program. And we started that about 2 years ago. I think it'd be 2 years in December. And we basically got into that to help Arkansas farmers, help expedite the process. It kind of hit a log jam. And we received work order from Arkansas Department of Workforce Services, and then staff logs it and sends it out to the inspectors, which would be David's team. And they go out, do the inspection, take pictures. Once the inspection is completed, it comes back to our office, it's filed and everything. That file is put together by Donna and sent over to Arkansas Department of Workforce Services. And to date, we've inspected 759 total farms and 1,215 total houses. So they have just done an excellent job in that area and really just kind of sped the process up. So hopefully they'll continue. At a busy time, David, I think it's in the fall, basically, coming in, so. Another program we handle is AFSIP, and I hate keeping up with acronyms. But, Arkansas Federal State Inspection Program, and that includes kind of a multitude of different, programs in there, which is our BRS, which is our Biotechnology Regulatory Services. And we completed 9 of those inspections last year. Our GAP-GIP, which is good agricultural practices and good handling practices, audits, and our staff did 17 audits last year. And then our peanut program, which is a big one, last year, the peanut program had 65,000 acres and staff graded about 45,000 tons. And peanuts, it covers farmer stock, grading services at 4 buying points around the state. Well, I say around the state, mostly from kind of Mariana up to northeast Arkansas with Pocahontas, Jonesboro and Portia. And this is where we utilize a lot of those 85 extra help come in, do the grading and that. And then the milled peanuts is a sheller. Then we also do shipping point inspections. We just had 2 employees get certified. They went out to North Carolina. They went through some training before that, online and that, and then they went out to North Carolina for 2 weeks to do, get trained in shipping point inspections for sweet potatoes. So, in fact, just got notification that their certificates will be sent to us. So that's great. So we can start doing that, and then also fruit and vegetable inspections. Other than that, like I said, we have our agricultural pest surveys, which is, we call it CAPS. We did 25 surveys in that last year with our state survey coordinator. Scott mentioned we have our apiary program, and then aquaculture, where we do bait and ornamental fish certification. And we usually have about 20 producers in that program and about 14,000 acres. And then boll weevil eradication program, I know Regina is going to talk about that here in a little bit, so I'll let her have that. And then ginseng and import fire ants, spongy moth survey. And then another big one is our nursery and landscaping and pest control. And nursery and landscaping and secondary licenses and inspected businesses. We offer 3 nursery licenses, which is the nurseryman, nursery dealer, and nursery landscape contractor. And then the phytosanitary export certificates. Last year, our team issued 1,538 phytos. That's basically something Arkansas can export to other countries. And then we do a pink bollworm program, and then produce safety is a program we've done, and we're entering our 8th year of produce safety. And that is an FDA grant funded program to carry out the FSMA produce safety rule, covered produce farms in the state. And then last, we have our sweet potato weevil certification program. So basically, if you're selling sweet potatoes and they're going to cross state lines, they have to have a green tag with them showing that they're weevil free and inspected to move across state lines, and we provide that monitoring system. And that's really all I have for regulatory services. Have any questions or?
Well, thank you. So as you all that aren't real familiar with us are starting to see, we do have a regulatory aspect to what we do, but you can also see as we go that we have a lot of marketing and service providing aspect of what we do. So the next one is Mike Stage. Mike, you ready?
Quality compliance section. And it's got a number of, this section has 12 staff that administer the separate programs. Some of the programs, feed, fertilizer, lime, soil amendments. Staff will will do licensing, product registration, and tonnage collections for these individual programs. We also, along with cooperate with the inspectors in the lab. We also do a quality assurance where the inspectors will sample products in marketplaces. They're sent to the lab, and then those results are compared to the labels for these products. And if they're found to be deficient, we'll work with the manufacturers to address that. And that's an ongoing project. The section also covers the agricultural consultant program. We've got approximately currently about 120. So they will do licensing and ensure that our consultants have the proper background to be an agricultural consultant. And they also track continuing education hours, which are required by law. We also have the industrial hemp program. Caleb Allen is our program manager for that. Caleb oversees licensing for our industrial hemp growers. He'll ensure that they're work with them to make sure that they've got a good plan that they're growing. He also works with the lab. They'll sample crops, turn those into the lab, and industrial hemp is required to have a THC content of 0.3% or less. So he'll work with them to make sure that all the crops, each lot of hemp is valid to go to market. We have a grain warehouse section. This section oversees does licensing and audits for our public grain warehouses, our grain dealers, and then they also do certifications for our grain graders program. And in our seed section, Meredith Martinez could be here today. She's the manager of that program. Some of the duties under this section, she's got a staff of 3. Some of the duties that they oversee are certified seed testing and rice genomics. Yeah. Just walked in. He's the supervisor in that section. If anybody has a question.
Morning.
Well, next up is Nikhil Solman. Nick is the director of the Bureau of Standards. Thank you, Nick.
Good morning, everyone. I can have you all here on the board. I'll give you a brief overview of who we are and what we do. Basically, we enforce the weights and measures law and the fuel quality law for the state. In simple words, we make sure you get what you pay for. That's all it means. Besides regulating these laws, we also regulate scale companies and meter companies that businesses hire to get their devices in compliance. And when I say devices or equipment, I mean scales, hopper scales, platform scales, vehicle scales, rail scales, jewelry scales, pawn shop scales, or any kind of commercial scale that's in the state, we regulate those scales. Also, we regulate the accuracy of the retail motor fuel dispensers and CNG meters and LPG meters. So any device or equipment used in a commercial transaction falls under weights and measures law. We have a staff of 15 inspectors. They are scattered all over the state, and they are assigned 5 to 6 counties on an average. They do unannounced inspections at all retail outlets, and some of the activities they do at the store are price verifications. That means they make sure the price on the shelf matches with the standard gun when you scan at the checkout counter. They also check packages for net content. If it's weighing correctly, or if it's what you bought, what you paid for is what you're getting. Besides that, they do some egg inspections and check the tolerance of testing of the scales and make sure all equipment is accurate. And that's all I have.
Questions for Nick? Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. All right, now, Regina's going to give you all an overview of the boll weevil eradication program.
Thanks, Mike. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to be here. No, I won't ever miss an opportunity to talk about our program and what the foundation has done through the years. The program actually started in Arkansas in 1997. But in 1993 is when the corporation, the non-corporation, was founded to begin the program in Arkansas. So the whole purpose of the nonprofit corporation was to implement the boll weevil eradication program within the state. But it took a few years for everything to get worked out and lined out so that the program could actually start. So in 1997, the program started down in what is now called the Southwest Zone, which would be Texarkana area. And then through a grower referendum, the program kind of made a east-north track through the state. So in 99, the Southeast Zone started. 2000 is when the Central Zone started, and then it moved on up into the Ridge Zone. And then the Delta Zone came in. All the other zones came in through the grower referendum. The Delta Zone came in through the Arkansas State Plant Board and through regulations that were already in place for invasive species. So the Delta Zone came in a little bit differently than the rest of them. However, when the Delta Zone came in, the program that was already established was hired or through a cooperative agreement. We took over in the Delta Zone. And so the way we have always run it is it's just a part of the program. It's part of the foundation, and we all work together. You know, I have my employees that are working in the Delta Zone. We do present every year, at the first board meeting, we did present a Delta Zone invoice for approval, but all the funds, everything is kind of put in together. We just have it all allocated differently so that we can show to the plant board what we have done in the Delta Zone, as well as in all the other areas too. As I said, the program began in 1997. And through the years, you know, we've really fought a battle, which those of you that have ever been in farming, especially cotton farming, and those of you that have worked with us in the program, some of them worked for boll weevil before they came over here. It was a fight, it was a battle, but we got it done. 2008, we were declared eradicated. 2009, everything was, you know, at that point we were considered eradicated throughout the whole state. And so we began what was called the maintenance phase of the program. Today, we are still in the maintenance phase of the program. Some folks have asked, why do you still have a program? You're not catching weevils. That's true. We're not. Thank goodness. We don't want to go backwards. However, there is still a threat. I work with the other programs throughout the United States, and definitely we work with the Texas program because they are still catching weevils there. In fact, this past year, down the valley, their numbers have gone up. And, you know, it sounds really far-fetched that Mexico is going to affect what could possibly happen here. But if you look back in history, where boll weevil came from in 1842 to 1922, there was that migration that occurred. And so we don't ever want that to happen again. So we work with the other programs throughout the United States, where we in Arkansas are a part of a nationwide effort to keep the boll weevil eradicated here, to keep them pushed down to where they are. And so that is why we continue to have our maintenance of the program. We have 5 zones in the state, and so we have 5 field staff who work, and they have done a great job. Last year we had 601,000 acres in the state. All 5 zones just continued with 5 staff. They did an amazing job being able to do all the grower contact, get all the information, do all the tracking, take care of everything in the field. 601,000 acres with 5 people. This year, we're at 485,000, so our acres are down, but we still continue with the 5 field staff that we have. As I said, this has been a nationwide effort, and we will continue to work with other programs throughout the nation to make sure that we can keep the boll weevils contained where they are. Eventually, we hope, the goal is that they will reach the eradication that we have in the rest of the United States, but until then, our efforts will continue. One of the things that I do want to point out that we have done this year has been it's very interesting how you would think that what we do is just unique to just boll weevil. But what we have done this year, we had a cooperative agreement with the Department of Agriculture for Arkansas and the USDA to do a cotton pest study. So not only were we looking for boll weevils, we were looking for 4 other cotton pests. And so we worked with a young lady here within the department and also with USDA, and we have had a trapping program in the southeast zone. We had about less than 150 traps in that started from Kerr Road and went all the way down to the Louisiana line. And so fortunately, we have not found anything. One of the cotton pests that we are checking for cottonseed bug is there's only one place that it has been found, and it's not here. And that's why we are participating in this to ensure that we don't have it. I would like to say that our program is probably the only one within the nation. The Arkansas boll weevil program is the only one that is participating in this particular program. And I'm proud of that fact that we have had that opportunity to work with I'm not supposed to say plant board, Department of Agriculture. I'm going to get there. I will. We're very proud that we're able to work with them in this. But on that note, I also want to tell you, the foundation has worked. This is my 24th season to be with the foundation. A fact that I'm very proud of. I feel like I've grown up in this. I know I've grown up in the cotton industry because my dad and my granddad, they grew cotton. My dad was in the cotton warehousing industry. So, this is definitely something that's near and dear to me. We have reached, this is just something that is very important, not only to me, but to the cotton. Sam can tell you what we have seen through the years, so it is important, but to be participating in this cotton pest study, that's something that has really been very interesting this year. The last thing that I would like to tell you is that, I've also been questioned about the protocol that we use. I've been told that, well, I don't have any traps in my field. Why don't I have traps here? We have a protocol that was actually set by the Technical Advisory Committee. And so as we have gone through the different stages of the program, those of you that know what a boll weevil trap looks like, you would see every cotton field had, they were surrounded by the traps at 300-foot spacing. And now we are at a 1 mile spacing on or near cotton field. So it has, there's been a lot of changes that have come through the years. The main thing that we do want to continue to do is to have a weevil-free environment in Arkansas. And so that's what we are working, that's our goal, that's what we're working for. We want to work with the other programs in the United States so that we can be a part of keeping the cotton industry protected from that pest that we have had. Any questions or anything? Again, thank y'all for that. Thank y'all for.
Thank you, man. Good job. To add a little bit to that, so this program over the years has just become more and more efficient under Virginia's leadership. to the point that I think for the last 4 or 5 years, they've been able to offer the cotton growers a rebate each year of approximately about half of what their assessment was. So it's a really good, well-managed program, that still provides the cotton growers early detection, boll weevil, if it does reemerge, and assures other states and outside entities that any cotton commodity coming out of Arkansas is trapped and boll weevil free. And that does assist, I think, the marketing and moving of cotton commodities around the country. So that is all of our upper management within the division. As you can see, it's very diverse. We do have an enforcement regulatory aspect to what we do, a big aspect of that, but we're much more than that. We partner with FDA, USDA, EPA, Department of Workforce Services, Department of Labor, and I'm probably forgetting somebody else, Department of Health. So we work through cooperative agreements, MOAs, MOUs. We take the position that anytime we can, as a partner, serve Arkansas agriculture on behalf of another agency, on behalf of a federal agency, that's what we want to do. We want our inspectors, we want our staff assisting, providing help, overseeing you all, Arkansas farmers, as opposed to federal inspectors or federal staff down here on your farm. So that's what we do to serve agriculture, to serve you all. If anybody has any questions, let me know. Feel free to contact me anytime you need to. Again, good job, everybody, and thank you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, as y'all can see, I mean, what the department does here and this staff, they do a great job of providing those services that, touch all the citizens of Arkansas, just not farmers. So they have large responsibility, and we're to support them and give some guidance where we need to, and let them do the work. So thank you all for explaining what you do in your program. Next up, we're going to get a legal update. Is Michael going to give it, or Wade? Wade?
I think Wade.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Wade Hodge. I'm Chief Legal Counsel for the Department of Agriculture. Michael Bynum's name was on the agenda. He's one of our other attorneys who's primarily assigned to the Plant Industries Division, and therefore the work that the Plant Board does. There was a quick legislative committee meeting this morning, and Michael and I kind of switched places. So what I'm going to talk about today is ethics for board members. Some of you heard this presentation before, either from previous presentations I've made to the Plant Board, or maybe the Forestry Commission, or maybe the Agriculture Board, or other boards or commissions you may have served on. We're just going to kind of go over state laws that pertain to ethics for board members. I like this quote from Davy Crockett. Always be sure you're right, and go ahead. That puts things in the right order. Sometimes people go ahead without making sure they're right first. And so if you ever run into a situation of, okay, can I do that? Perhaps maybe you should shoot me an email or give me a call, or call Michael, our other attorney, if I'm not available, or call the Ethics Commission if you need to, just to make sure you're okay. We're going to talk about accepting gifts. We're going to talk about the freedom of information. We're going to talk about open meetings and things like that, and everything that might apply to you. So, let's see, I'll make sure, yeah. So, like I said, we're going to be talking about laws. And there are laws that say, okay, all of these ethics rules we have, they apply to public servants. Public servants is a public appointee, an employee, or official. So it applies to me, it applies to you. We're all kind of in the same boat when it comes to this. Certain things, I call this my list of things you really shouldn't have to tell anybody. But it's just as sure as you don't, somebody will say, well, nobody ever told me that. Okay. So, look at things that you should not do. Well, everybody in this room knows you should not do these things. But just be aware that there are state laws on these. Some of them carry misdemeanor penalties. Some of them actually carry felon penalties. So just be aware, and it's just kickbacks or things like that. Those are the ones that'll really get you into trouble, things like that. So what's a conflict of interest? One of the things that was on that previous list is avoid conflicts of interest. A lot of people, I guess, try to lump too much in this category. What's a conflict of interest? If you're voting on an issue that comes before the plant board that actually involves you or a family member or a group you might be affiliated with, you may have to consider whether or not you should vote on that particular issue. It's probably not going to be a situation where I say you can't vote. It's whether or not you feel like you have a conflict. Really, a lot of times people will say, okay, so we got a pesticide penalty. Well, this guy's my neighbor. I know him, so I'm going to recuse. Listen, you probably need to vote. And because, you can get into a situation with Arkansas, pretty much everybody's your neighbor. And so you can get into a situation where you prohibit yourself from voting on things that you really ought to be voting on. This word appearance, the way judges decide if they're going to recuse from a case, it's called the appearance of impropriety. In other words, would it just look wrong for them to be voting on this? And there are court cases that say that also applies to board and commission members as well. I love this rule down at the bottom. This is actually from Nordstrom's department store employee handbook long ago, back in the days when before there were so many state and federal laws that require us to put things in our employee handbook. They have one rule: use good judgment in all situations. There will be no further rules. Well, there are further rules now because both the federal and state government have imposed those on us. A couple more things that make you go, you know how the law was before it got amended. This legislative session, we said, okay, this person shall represent this particular association or that association. And so now you just represent that group of producers or industry, seed growers, forestry. It's not a particular association. I have actually heard board members before voting on very important controversial issues say, well, my association met last week and I am to vote a certain way. That's bad news right there. The law that you are required to follow, which is the Administrative Procedure Act, when you're adopting a rule, it says that rule is to be based on the best reasonably obtainable information concerning that rule, not how someone else told you to vote. So you have, you may run into a situation. I'm a member of this organization. I know where they fall, but I know what the evidence that's been presented to me says. And I have to vote the way the law tells me that I should vote. And we have to follow the Freedom of Information Act. And the big one there is don't discuss board business with other board members outside of a board meeting. We'll talk a little bit more about that later when we specifically get to the FOI. Gifts. I tell you, I've got 7 slides in this presentation that deal with gifts. We're going to zip through that pretty quickly. I know we've got a long day, but it's good information if you want to refer back to it. So you should not be receiving a gift just because of some action you took, as a member of the plant board. We like the way you voted on this particular issue, so we're going to give you a gift, because of how you voted. That's bad news. Now let's talk about what is a gift. Anything that exceeds $100, is a gift. If it's given to you in appreciation of your position or your performance as a member. Some things that the Ethics Commission will consider, and okay, should they have accepted this or not? Is the gift you received, is it from someone who's had a history of giving you gifts? And maybe they're just continuing to do the same thing they've always done. All of those, come into play. And let's see, what are allowable gifts? Food, lodging, travel, which bears a relationship to your position when you're appearing in an official capacity. Gifts that are returned unused within 30 days. Somebody gives you a $150 fishing rod and you don't use it, but you return it within 30 days, then you're not in trouble. Gifts from a family member. Now, if the family members want to say, I'm so proud of you for getting appointed to the plant board, we're going to give you a gift. That's okay. No trouble with things like that. Anything less than $100, you're all right. Somebody gives you a $150 fishing rod, you want to keep it, give them $50 back. And that's allowable. Wedding presents, those are okay. Things like that. If somebody gives you an award or like a plaque for your service or something, that is okay if it's up to $150. That one's a little bit different than the normal $100 range. If you guys want to pull out what Jed Clampett used to call his walking around money out of your pocket and buy a gift for another board member, it's not state funds. And I hope I'm not the only one in the room who knows who Jed Clampett is. Probably just dated myself there. That's okay, because that's not state funding. Like I said, a lot of slides here. We're gonna skip through a lot of these. You can refer back to them or give me a call. I want to go over this. This situation that actually happened. Jerry Jones, owner of the Cowboys, gave North Little Rock police officers and their families free tickets to Dallas Cowboys home game. Okay, so those public employees, public officials received a gift for simply doing their job. Okay, so the Ethics Commission says that's against the law. Can't do that. Now, so the Ethics Commission did find that there was a violation of the law. They did not impose a penalty against those police officers who accepted that because the North Little Rock City Attorney said that's okay. It's not a violation. So that gets you off the hook. If you ever have a question about this, call me. And even if I give you bad legal advice, it provides a defense for you because just like Davy Crockett said, you check to see if you're right first, and then you can go ahead. All right, any questions about gifts? We're going to kind of move on. Attendance at board meetings is important. There is a state law that says if you miss 3 regularly scheduled meetings in a row, we have to notify the governor. And then the governor can decide whether or not you should continue to be a member of the board. That doesn't apply to special call meetings if you miss 3 regularly scheduled meetings in a row. And just be aware that if we have referred you to the governor for missing 3 meetings in a row, and then you show up next meeting, you will not get your stipends or per diem unless the governor has contacted us and says, I have excused those absences. So attendance, very important. Open meeting. Which begs the question of what is a meeting? Well, okay, let's say for whatever reason, we get together and we don't have a quorum. Is that a meeting? Yes, it is. It's a meeting. You can have a meeting with two of us get together. So you're just not allowed to transact any official business, but it's still a meeting for purposes of the Freedom of Information Act. That's something that we have to give notice to the public and others that have requested notice of our meeting. This applies to committee meetings. Scott discussed all of the committees that you have. We have to give notice of all of those meetings as well. Can apply to email. You will from time to time maybe get an email from Scott or Linda saying, hey, we're thinking about a meeting. How about these days here? And give you like a choice of 3 days. We always try to remember in that email that we send to you to put in all caps, do not reply all. Just reply to the person who sent it, because what happens? You start replying, well, what are we going to discuss that day? Well, we got that big issue, and then the next thing you know, you're having a meeting via email. So that's an abundance of caution. I don't think anybody's going to get in trouble if they hit reply all, but that's something that the Attorney General's office teaches when they do their training for other government attorneys. They suggest that we put that do not reply all and those type of things. Now, look, there are other times you guys are going to run into each other. Kids, ball games, school events, church, just other meetings. And from time to time, you're going to discuss things that the plant board might have some sort of interest in. It happens, okay? And so the way the court decisions and the Attorney General's office opinions say, if those discussions are just incidental and intermittent, don't go trying to arrange, hey, I'm going to be at this ball game, let's get together and talk about that. Let's don't be doing those things. And so if it's just an incidental conversation you might have, should be no issue with that there. Let's talk about virtual meetings. We have virtual options for most of our meetings now. Just be aware that there are issues with that. We strongly encourage your attendance in person if you can. Should you be allowed to vote on an issue if you lost connectivity for a while and haven't heard all of this discussion? What if this board has always done a real good job of having high attendance. But what if we get to a situation where we've only got the bare minimum necessary to make a quorum? And that one person who is remote loses connectivity. Do we still have a quorum? And the answer is no. And so what happens then? Do we have to adjourn until we can get them back on? And then that person who lost connectivity, what do? Do they vote? And so once again, we're glad we have that Zoom option. It's a great tool for us, but attendance in person is encouraged. And also, I've noticed I've got some duplicate stuff. Some of this was on the previous slide, so we can kind of move on there. Any questions about the Freedom of Information Act or anything like that before I move on? Once again, feel free to shoot me an email, me or Michael. Give us a call if you have any questions, and we'll be happy to discuss this with you further. Statement of financial interest. This is something you have to fill out and file with the Secretary of State by January 31 each year. Back to the Freedom of Information Act, just be aware that that statement that you fill out is public information. So if someone requests it, once you file it with the Secretary of State, they got to turn it over. Once again, any questions, feel free to call me, but on a lot of this stuff, what I might do is just turn around and call the Ethics Commission. So feel free to contact the Ethics Commission personally if you have any questions. And once again, remember that some of the things we talked about, there are actual criminal penalties attached to that. Back on the statement of financial interest, if you fill something out wrong, leave something out, no violation if you correct that within 30 days of discovery of your unintentional error. Last slide, I like this quote from Will Rogers: "Live in such a way you would not be ashamed to sell your parrot to the town gossip." And that'll cover a lot of what we had to say. So once again, happy to answer any questions now, and just remind you, if you don't have questions now, call me anytime you need anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Wade. All right, you up for a 5-minute recess here, and we'll, take a break and come back and continue. It might be a good idea. We'll, let's try to reconvene here at, 10 to 11. Somebody give it 11. Good. Thanks. Sir, I like I didn't get
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
We're good to go. Thank y'all.
Call the meeting back to order. We're gonna continue on with the business, here on the agenda. First, we'll let Wade give us a little, guidance on how we conduct business at the board and,
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it's real simple. We don't, you're not bound by any strict set of procedural rules. When enforcement actions or actions that need to be taken come up, chairman will call for a motion, you get a motion. A lot of times what happens is somebody makes a motion and then people want to start discussing it right then. Wait to see if it gets seconded because you really don't have anything to discuss unless the motion gets a second. Then if you have discussion, after that, then there could be discussion. And all it takes is a simple majority. So it's the majority of the voting members present. Two members from the University of Arkansas are non-voting. So it'll be just a simple majority of the voting members present necessary to pass any of your motions that you need. Any further questions? If you have any procedural issues that do come up, I'll be in the room. We'll get everything straight down.
thank you, Wade keeps me straight. I'll skip a step or something. Thank you. So up on the agenda, we're gonna elect officers, and I'm just gonna read this piece of the bylaws here about electing officers. The officers shall include a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. All members are eligible to hold office. Officers shall be elected annually for 1 year and are eligible for re-election. The annual election shall be at the first regular meeting in each fiscal year, July 1 through June 30. And all officers shall continue to hold their respective offices until their successors are elected. And so, do we have any action on officer? Do we want to renominate the slate that we have? What's the board's action on nominating officers?
So you can be re-nominated and re-elected.
That's right.
I just want to be clear about that.
That's right.
I move to renominate the officers as what we currently have.
And I'll second that motion.
Right, we've got a motion and a second to renominate the officers currently serving. Any discussion? Want to be nominated? Please. You campaign for yourself. We'll have no discussion. We'll have a vote. All those in favor of re-electing the current slate of officers, the chair, vice chair, and secretary, which I'm the chair, Mr. Bruce Officer is the vice chair, and Mr. Stan Stuckey is the secretary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those on Zoom.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you all. We'll look forward to leading us through the next year.
Well, I'd just like to say that I think y'all have all done a good job and very happy to have y'all back.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up, we're going to consider the minutes of the December 15th board meeting and the February 6th special call board meeting. No, a lot of you weren't in attendance. If you had a chance to look over the minutes, those that were, any edits or questions on the minutes of the December 15th board meeting?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion to approve the minutes. We'll do them one at a time. We'll do this at December 15th board meeting. So Mr. Bruce offered, made a motion, Colonel Meyer second to approve the December 15th board meeting minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
On Zoom?
Should,
Opposed?
Matthew, we shouldn't be approving the ones that didn't attend, right? So that would be an abstain.
Well, it's a good question. If we don't now have enough people to approve them, Wade, what's the,
What is the question?
well, approving minutes that members did not attend.
Oh, no, everybody who's a member can vote on the
Okay.
issues coming before the board.
Okay, so,
Ah.
thank you, thanks, Kyle. Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, what about the February 6th, 2023 special call board meeting? Y'all had a chance to look over those minutes. What's the board's action on those minutes?
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Angel, a second by Mr. Sanford. Any discussion? Those in favor of approving the February 6th board meeting minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
On Zoom. Those opposed? Motion carried. All right, that got us through that business. Next up, we've got our pest control section. Scott, you're gonna give me.
Yes, sir.
Present that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So before you all in attachment 7A are pest control exams from December 2022 to August of 2023. For some reason, and I don't have an explanation, in that pest control law, it requires that you all as a board approve the examination results. We do not hold up issuing licenses when a person passes an exam and is eligible. But this quarterly meeting, we bring to y'all, the exams that have occurred since the last meeting for your approval. We don't do that in other licensing programs and other examination programs. It's not required. And again, I don't have an explanation why it is with this one. It just is. So if you don't mind, we would appreciate a vote to approve those. And if anybody has any questions, I can answer them.
It seems like there's a lot of failure rate. What is the failure rate on this test actually?
So it's probably a little over 50%.
Do they get the retest or will it?
They have to wait, if I'm not mistaken, 90 days before they can retest.
From my recollection, it's pretty standard.
That's held for a long time. That's held right, yeah. It's a pretty difficult test for the termite, the household pest free. That's all it's 2 tests and 1 actually. And then, the ornamental trees are pest free.
Make a motion, we approve these that are paid.
I'll take that.
Got a motion by Mr. Alford, second by Mr. Stuckey to approve the examination results. Those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
On Zoom.
Uh,
Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we got a resolution.
Yes, sir. So attachment 7B is an enforcement action that we've reached settlement with DLA's violator, and we just need board approval on that. The very short overview of that is a PC landscape contractors, and their licensed operator is Todd Blaylock. Inspectors observed 2 employees of PC landscape contractors making pesticide applications, and they weren't wearing proper PPE. They were wearing short sleeve shirts. They didn't have on gloves, so on and so forth. The inspectors observed this and stopped and did an investigation, and sure enough, the pesticide that they were using, the label did require an officer shirt, gloves, proper PPE. So they've agreed to a settlement, $300 civil penalty for each of those 2 technicians, for a total of $600. If you have any questions, we can go into a little more detail on that.
And then we accept.
Second.
Got a motion to accept the resolution agreement. Stuckey, second by Mr. Reynolds Meyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. Those in favor, signal by saying aye. Those opposed?
God, if they're found guilty of the second offense, do the same thing, what's the fine
Civil
going to?
penalty escalates, and then you get into a situation where their license or their registration as a technician can be revoked.
Okay.
Right, that like, that matrix in our booklet here maybe?
You know, I'm not sure if it is in that booklet, but I can provide that with the pest control.
And is that actually is that the person or the business, or can they change? How does that work?
So the way we have that organized is we have what we call a license holder of the business. And in order to have that business license, you have to employ a licensed applicator. The licensed applicator is responsible for training and overseeing the technicians. And the technicians have to be registered. So a violation, when we do the investigation, could apply to either one or all three. It just depends on how it rolls out. If the business provided, for instance, if the business provided the proper training and the PPE to the technician, they just chose not to wear it, we would only hold them liable. But if the business did not provide, or, you know, the technician didn't have the mask or the gloves in the truck, one provided by the business, we would hold the business liable. So it's a case by case basis, depends on how the evidence lays out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Chairman.
Next, we have Ms. Susie Nichols. We got some business to take care of with the pesticide section.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For those of you who have not had to approve enforcement action before, for the pesticide section, you're going to be looking at attachment 8A. And what we send you ahead of time is a short breakdown in a spreadsheet of the violation. Also attached is a more detailed breakdown of each violation. Typically, what we do at these meetings is I ask y'all to vote on these in groups. For example, I'll say, Mr. Chairman, I'd like you to consider warning letters 1 through 12, and y'all vote as a group. Or I can read each one to y'all, and we can vote on them separately. That's y'all's call of the board. It does take a little longer if you want me to read each one separately, but it's decision. And these are not contested by the individuals. They're approved. They've agreed to the settlements. Chairman?
Yeah, I mean, the ones that they've been agreed upon, signed by the individuals involved. So, I would just suggest we vote on that in groups. If there's questions about any of them, feel free to have that in discussion. So, what's the board's action on the warning letters, 1 through 12?
I move that we recommend to accept the recommendations of staff on that warning.
Got a motion by Mr. Stuckey, second by Mr. Thorne to accept the staff's recommendation on the warning letters. All those in favor signal by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, the next section, items 13 through 18, these are signed consent agreements. Again, these are not contested and they fall in the penalty matrix.
What's board's action on the signed consent agreements?
So much.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Hawkins, second by Mr. Meyer, to accept the signed consent agreements, 13 through 18. Those in favor, signal by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, the next section, signed agreement eligible consent agreement. This is number 19 through 21. This means these could have been eligible for a fine up to $25,000. The amount agreed upon is based on past precedent from the board, and these are not contested with the board's pleasure.
Board's action on the signed egregious eligible consent agreements, items 19 through 21.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Alford, second by Mr. Frost. Any discussion?
I just want, I mean, I believe I understand, but maybe for the new members, when you said it was 25,000 in that penalty matrix, these have been reduced significantly. I believe that's because it's the first time maybe for these and they cooperated. And so as part of that matrix, we sort of stepped that down. Is that?
Yes, sir. We have some built-in guidance in our penalty matrix, levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. And also within our penalty matrix, we have the ability to look at what level this is. Is it the same violation repeatedly? And cooperation. And the board has approved these amounts in the past, so that's where the precedent comes in.
Thank you. So we got a motion and a second to, accept the signed egregious eligible consent agreement. Any further discussion? Those in favor, signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, we're gonna move to signed attorney settlements. This is items 22 through 38. This simply means these individuals contested the violation through an attorney. Their attorneys worked with our staff attorneys, and these were the amounts that were agreed upon. What's the board's pleasure?
Is this $7 or $7.25? Is that total or on each one of these offenses?
It's a total. In some of these cases, you'll see a case file number multiple times and the same individual's violator multiple times. It just means that person may have had multiple violations within one case file, and our lawyers and their attorneys worked out a settlement, basically grouping the violations together for settlement purposes.
These are 2017 case files and two 2019 case files and a 2020 case file. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So what staff's agreed upon. We have a motion on the signed attorney settlements.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Alford, second by Mr. Angel. Any discussion? Those in favor of accepting the signed attorney settlements, signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The last item is number 39. This is also a signed civil penalty settlement. There wasn't a hearing involved in this several years ago, and this ended up going through the court system, and then the settlement that was finally accepted, as you can see, is listed here. What is the board's pleasure?
You have a little bit of a history of that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, give me just a second. In October of 2019, after order and notice of hearing from Mr. Todd, the plant board held a formal hearing. That means our attorneys were involved. It involved two cases that happened in 2018. Mr. Todd failed to appear. So at that meeting, the board voted on case file 180414 for 6 penalties for Mr. Todd. Drift dicamba off target, 25,000. Use of a Class H product, which is dicamba, after the prohibited period of April 16th to October 31st of 25,000. Failure to provide records, 1,000. Failure to keep records, 1,000. Failure to complete new technology certification training, 1,000. No private applicator training. Failure to go through the training to secure a license, basically, $1,000. The next case file 180268, drifting dicamba off target, that's 25,000. Use of a Class H product during the prohibited period, 25,000. Failure to provide records of 1,000. Mr. Todd then appealed this to the Pulaski County Circuit Court on November 29th, 2019, and on June 7th, 2020, the appeal was dismissed for lack of prosecution. On March 7th, 2022, a judgment was filed against Mr. Todd for collection of the approved civil penalty. On July 26th, 2023, Mr. Todd signed a general release and settlement agreement offer of $65,000 for full settlement of the civil penalties involved in those two cases, basically.
Has that been paid?
It won't be paid until the board approves. No fine will be, paid until the board approves.
And
We send out a notice.
He's
at
done
that
us a
point.
check.
Oh, we do have the check.
We got the
My apologies.
And it was, was 105,000 or some odd.
Correct.
105 was the total amount. This is the settlement amount of 65 out of the 105.
Thank you, Susie. I mean, yeah, this, I can recall that we had the hearing at the board together. Mr. Todd hadn't been cooperative. We, you know, took the appropriate, what we felt at the board at that time, the appropriate action. It was obviously Susie gave us, went through the court system and upheld. So, I mean, this does kind of help put a little teeth into the law, and maybe encourage cooperation and going forward. So, any other comments or questions for Susie?
Mine's more so with all the cases. It seems like there's a lot of training or certification violations. Is this like, I know this was some older stuff, but like going forward, is that any different or better or worse? It seems like training is a little bit like we were all, as a farmer and as our group, like going home about getting our certification. But then COVID happened and things have sort of not been as readily maybe available, I guess.
I will say off the top of my head, we typically don't have widespread training issues. Don't, if you remember the numbers, I quoted for commercial and private, we have over 20,000 private applicators. So most of the time, somebody lets their certification lapse and just forgot to go through training or forgot to send in their application, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, we don't have repeat violators in this section. But it's something that, you know, the Environmental Protection Agency reviews our files, and certification and training is a big priority for them. We've had a more in the past few years, but there's also more pesticides that require training than there used to be in the past. And I think there was maybe a little lag in that knowledge.
Yeah. Is there something we need to do as a board to like make this more, you know, available or not? It's available, I know, but like enhance that we need to get these trainings done, because this is where it starts on violations, knowing what to do and how to do it. I mean, that's where some of these things start.
Options at our disposal now. Clint is our training coordinator at the University of Arkansas. We have in-person training now, and because of COVID, we do have online training that we did not have in the past. And we have online testing now.
Yep.
So you don't have to drive to Little Rock to necessarily do the testing, but you have testing options here in Little Rock. And we also work with organizations like the Highway Department. We do special training and testing for them. We did that yesterday. And we do hold special events throughout the state to accommodate training and testing so people don't have to come to Little Rock. This isn't a huge issue.
Yeah.
And the manufacturers assist with a lot of training.
Yeah. Up till recently, your restricted use pesticide license 3 will cover your training for most all herbicides.
All right, now you've got your paraquat and
Correct.
your list.
And those are provided by the
University has that.
by the university and the
EPA.
and the manufacturer, right?
Manufacturer, right.
And part of it probably is, especially with people who are having to take these new trainings. Your pesticide license, I think, is 5 years.
Right.
These trainings are
Paraquat's 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Dicamba's annual. They are
You get a little bit
different.
of
They're different times that are, you know, it would be nice to be able to take, and I realize rules change. So you can't take a 5-year training when the rules change every other year. But it would be nice to.
We do send out notification reminders to individuals about their training and recertification and their license. The paraquat, however, that's an EPA requirement. We don't actually hold, I don't get a copy of that training. That's the individual's responsibility. So that's a little separate system. And the additional dicamba training is on the manufacturer. And so we don't actually get that sent to us. We just we ask that you have it available if we need to make sure you were trained.
Yeah.
But training is not, out of the number of applicants we have and applicators, it's not, we don't have a lot of repeat violators.
But it seems like those that don't follow the rules
maybe
also didn't get trained.
or maybe their operators didn't get trained. I don't know.
A lot of, don't care either way.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
I didn't mean to change the subject.
That's okay.
What's the board's action on the civil penalty settlement, item number 39?
Move we approve it.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Meyer, second by Mr. Alford to approve the signed civil penalty settlement number 39. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
Just curious for historic, is that one of our largest, or the largest penalties that we've ever had?
My 20 years, that's the largest
In the 20
I've
years.
seen on the pesticide agriculture side.
Yeah.
Yep, yes, sir.
And these go to, in the scholarship funding, correct?
Yeah, all civil penalties collected goes to board scholarship.
Oh, okay. Welcome back to the board. Well, I heard that.
They don't factor in all that.
Okay. That's what the W-9 was for.
Any more questions for Susie? Do you have anything else for us, Susie?
I've got an abandoned pesticide up there next on the agenda.
All right. Rushing off.
You're fine.
Oh, you're. That's attachment 8B.
The next attachment is 8B. I'm going to give everyone an update on the abandoned pesticide program for those who do not know what this program is. The Arkansas Agriculture Pesticide Program was the abandoned pesticide program was developed as a way for farmers to properly dispose of unwanted pesticides. Since 2005, this program has overseen the collection of 5.8 million pounds of unwanted pesticides in counties across Arkansas. Participation in collection is free and anonymous for farmers and other non-landowners. Pesticide collections are paid for by the pesticide manufacturer through our pesticide registration program. State regulation requires the manufacturers pay $70 per feed. This is for agricultural pesticides only. Like I said, total pounds collected since 2005 is 5.8 million. The current funding right now is over $600,000. We have a rotating schedule throughout the state, various counties. We do about 10 counties a year, dependent upon funding, because this program has become more popular over time. Everybody used to be highly suspicious that we were getting ready to arrest you for dropping off some very old illegal pesticides. That's not the case. We're not out there taking pictures of you. We don't know what you're disposing of. The upcoming schedule right now, this is still pending because we are in the process of renewing our contract. Right now, we're looking at November, Craighead County, Poinsett County, and Mississippi County. We don't have the exact location yet, but when we do, we'll post them on our website. We can get that information to the board. The collections are for 8 to 1 every day. We have anonymous forms we encourage everybody to fill out. We work with University of Arkansas and Farm Bureau to get these forms filled out. Basically, how much are you bringing? So we can be prepared, because this contractor's out of state. We have to have trucks and the availability to dispose of these pesticides properly. Farm Bureau previously collected those forms for us, so it's kept anonymous. Your name wasn't on it. All we need to know is what you're bringing so we can be prepared. We don't turn anyone away unless we are at capacity. But that's just an update on that program. It's a really good, popular program. We've been able to maintain the funding over the years. Plus Bradley sitting back there was part of the original abandoned pesticide board that helped implement this program in the early 2000s. Any questions?
Do you still turn the forms into Farm Bureau? Is that still going on, or what's the procedure now?
You can turn them into Farm Bureau office, the county agent's office, and we're also creating an online form on our website where they can go on and electronically fill out their information. They don't have to put any information other than what they'll be delivering to what location.
One question is the funding keeping up with the demand. I mean, this is a great program, but I think it's helped everyone here that's involved in keeping our farm safe and clean. And we'd like to, I'd personally like to see one in our county every year, but I know that's not possible. But how is the funding and is it adequate? Like what?
The legislature raised the funding, was it last year, Brandy? July 1st, it went from 50 to 70. That's the first time it had been raised since the beginning of the program. However, the contracts and the fees for disposal also have gone up over time. Right now, we're able to continue collection. We haven't had to really stop or alter the schedule, but when this first started, it was for farmers only. It wasn't for commercial applicators, it wasn't for the dealers bringing pesticides to dispose of them. That program has since been opened up more, and commercial applicators and dealers do drop off some pesticides. That's made the funding go down a little. We monitor that funding constantly. We will be monitoring it while we are doing collections this year. We have staff there on site with the disposal company. We'll monitor how many trucks come in. More funding would be great.
Right.
But we do monitor it closely. We've yet to run out of money at any point and have to stop collections.
You wouldn't say you've done maybe roughly 10 a year, but
Yeah, I think a couple of years we had to back off, COVID, just some scheduling, but in general, it's about 10 counties a year. And we've looked into some satellite locations, especially in the heavy agriculture areas, to maybe get back over there more often. Because as we move to the state, like these counties, we're gonna collect a lot. But as we move towards maybe Fayetteville, we don't collect a lot as much up there. So the funding starts building as we move away from those high agriculture counties. And we try to encourage people not to transport these across the state. That's why we try to rotate through the state. Because a lot of these containers we get are not in the best condition.
And did I understand you to say that it is open to dealers now? Or not really? Because I understood that it was not really open to.
I'm gonna let Brandy speak.
A lot of our pesticide dealers are also commercial applicators, so they get left with a lot of unused product from the commercial application side of their business, so we do accept in those cases.
I just see a need for, not necessarily, I understand why they would, but not necessarily dealers who are still in business, but those that, co-ops that have gone out of business. There is a need to dispose of that, and there's no structure there left to do that, so.
The previous abandoned pesticide board, these are things we discussed over time. If the funding got low, if we could implement additional fees for certain people, we've yet to have to go that direction, but we will keep this board updated as we move forward on the funding.
Oh, I was just gonna say that, you know, the funding allows us to maintain at least a base level of collections. But there is, I think, the desire out there, if we could find other sources of funding or increase the funding and increase collections, I think they'd be utilized. I think there's a lot of desire and a lot of want for the program out there. We just can't provide it.
We've been able to secure grants on a few occasions that have helped bump the funds up and allow us to do a little more. So we're always on the lookout for those grants also.
and there was, correct me if I'm wrong, there was maybe a little off of raising that fee for the registered product. Maybe over time, we didn't want to jump it up, double the fee cost, you know, at one time, but we went from 50 to 70, and there may be another increase in the future.
Correct. The amount was increased in the law. We all could increase it as needed, the fee.
What's the average amount of funding expenditure per year on this?
Well, Miss Brandy Reynolds is the supervisor of this program. I'm gonna let her speak.
It depends on what area of the state we were in last year. We were down in the southwest corner, so we didn't take in as much except for a satellite location we had in Lawrence County. And this was in fall of 2022. We collected over 220,000 pounds, and our expenses for that collection alone was almost $300,000.
And we try to group these because there is a setup fee you have to pay to the contractor. And that's a chunk of money.
Well, it's all depending on the location, the state, and the cost of those collections.
Safety Clean or somebody like Safety Clean?
The cleaner out of Texas. Our contractor.
Questions?
Thanks, Sid.
Thank you.
Yeah. Nick, up next.
Alright. For Bureau of Standards, we should have attachment 9A. And attachment 9A is for the period November of 2022 to January of 2023. we have 66 violations for misrepresentation of price. Those 66, I have listed them according to the table 1 to 7, 25 first offense, 13 second offense, 13 third offense, 7 fourth offense, 5 fifth offense, 2 sixth offense, and 1 seventh offense. Some of the board members would probably remember last year we went through this, we had a big problem with one of the retailers pricing, overcharging the customers in their community. It started in South Arkansas, I believe it was in Lake Union. It was part of the southwest side of the state. And as we started getting reports that they were not complying, I had all my inspectors start taking this retailer in their area. And the problem was just outrageous. Since then, their compliance has improved. And I want to think because of the civil penalties we started issuing and getting approved, that has helped. There's still some problem, but it's getting better. So those 66 civil penalties are called misrepresentation of pricing. In table 1 and 2, what you see is the name of the business, which is the same in this case, Dollar General. And the cities they're located in and the inspection date. Now, a store fails the inspection if they do not meet the 98% accuracy.
98.
98, that's the regulation. And the National Institute of Standards and Technology Handbook 133 or 130, I'm not sure. But we are lenient. If they get 91, 92, we give them a pass. But once it starts falling below 90%, and if you see some of the accuracy rates at the store 68, 64, 55, 30%, that's just not acceptable.
I assume you inspected other stores besides Dollar General.
We do Walmart, we do all kinds of things. We hardly find any problem.
Yeah, this was
They're consistent.
the store that had the trouble back. When did you recognize that?
2 years. 2 years. 2 years.
2 years ago. And so these are November 22nd to January 23rd. Since then, they think in 2023 may have been better.
Yeah, it's on my attachment.
Yeah, okay.
So when you go in the dollar stores, it's say, this item is $1, $2, $3, and the things up is
$2.50.
something higher.
So Nick, just to clarify, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the big issue here was corporate is constantly adjusting prices. And I think they do that electronically through the computer, and staff doesn't always have the opportunity to get out on the actual aisle and correct the prices. So you pick something up off the aisle and it looks like it's $1, it brings up $1.10. So that was where the issue was, right?
Yeah, the business practice was just not proper. Right, Tim?
Yes, but the biggest problem was understanding. He got somebody trained in there for a week that just took over as manager. And we had several managers tell inspectors this, and one myself. Our job is to get product on the shelf, not worry about these price checks. Okay, we're gonna help you.
But anyway, it's better, it's improving.
It's looking good.
Okay, we're moving in the right direction.
Yes.
They get fined if they don't get the product on the shelf. Nothing happens if they get a penalty for overcharges. And that's the only penalty applies. It's not the undercharge. That hardly ever happens.
Well, and the beauty of this is nowhere in weights and measures law, it says that the retailer has to advertise or put a price on the shelf. Nowhere. But if you're going to put a price on the shelf, you better match with your standard price.
Yeah, we have one store, well, more than one. Now you gotta understand, there's over 600 Dollar Generals in this store, in this state. So we had at least 2 stores on Friday fail like the 3rd, 4th time. This is, once we determine you failed 1 week, we're gonna be back at least every 10 days to see if you are doing better. They failed to do better, so state law doesn't require you to advertise your price on the shelf. If you do, it has to be done a certain way. So really, they took the option of closing the store for the weekend versus taking all their shelf tax off. That's, it seemed to work. Then, that's it, we can make a motion.
Yes.
Chair.
What's the board's action on the 66 civil penalties, between November 22nd and November 2022 and January 2023 as presented?
I move we accept. That's second.
Moved by Mr. Gamble, second by Mr. Thorne to accept the civil penalties. Any discussion? Those in favor, signify by saying aye. Motion carried.
All right, let's go to attachment 9B. Attachment 9B is for the period of January 2023 to mid-July 2023. And now here we have two different kinds of violations. The first one, we have 73 violations for no decal or expired annual decal. Let me give you a brief. I talked about businesses hiring scale companies and meter companies to get their equipment calibrated. Those equipment and devices have to be checked by a scale company once annually in a calendar year. So if I own a scale and I get my device certified in January of 2023, I technically have until December 31st, 2024 to get it done again. So in most cases, they're actually getting 2 years, but it's not 2 years. But there are a lot of people who fail to do that. And those are the 73 violations, of which 58 were the first offenses. These are in table 1, 13 second offenses, and 2 third offenses.
You're coming back to those pretty regular, so if they're not in compliance, what's your time frame to come back?
We usually give them 10 to 15 days, and sometimes it's still not get done.
That we need to take action on those. Yeah.
73?
Yes. What's the board's action on the 73 civil penalties for no decal or expired annual decal?
So much.
Second.
Move to accept, Mr. Bruce Offer, second by Mr. Conklin. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Motion carried.
Let's go to attachment 3 within the attachment 9B. Now you will see we have only 5 for misrepresentation of pricing. And of those 5, they were all one offense, one for every first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, and it's probably the same business.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay. So for some reason, they just were not getting it done.
What's the board's action on the 5 misrepresented pricing civil penalties?
Move to accept recommendation of staff.
Second. Moved by Mr. Duffy, second by Mr. Alford to accept the civil penalties. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item here we have on our agenda is, the Bowie Subcommittee meeting reports.
Yeah, we met July the 13th in this room, and that's when, things were changing. I was put on this subcommittee, and Scott was on it and came off, but he's still president of the meetings, and so it was through the changes that got talked about earlier, because I was on the Bowie Eradication Committee on the plant board, which doesn't exist anymore. And I got on this one, and this replaced that. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay. And then, of course, Regina was there and, you know, she talked earlier today and it looks like I'm assuming we've been getting a rebate back and at a later date and probably follow the same pattern. I'm assuming. And have you gotten everybody paid?
All the checks were rounded out in, by April. For last year.
For last year.
April.
And then have you been paid? How's your collection going for August 15th deadline?
We're at 90% collected right now, and, you know, there's still some that are coming in. We have a few that probably won't come in, that it's every year, same thing.
That's my report. Oh, you have me. Thank you for the report, Mr. Stuckey. We need to take any action on the I guess the volleyball subcommittee meeting now.
Mr. Stuckey can present that in form of a motion.
I move that we accept the report for the education subcommittee.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Stuckey and a second by Mr. Angel to approve the report. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Motion carried.
Yes, so from the Bo Weevil standpoint, what y'all are typically gonna see going forward from the Bo Weevil subcommittee is usually just a committee report. You occasionally might have to take action because if there's ever a fail to pay or somebody doesn't want to pay late or somebody wants to contest a late fee, we'll hear that through the subcommittee and make a recommendation back to y'all for your approval. There is annually, Regina mentioned earlier, the Delta zone, which was legislated into the program. So we're required to keep separate fiscal and activity records from the other zones. And that is typically brought before the plant board annually for your review and approval to make sure everything is compliant. And I think that's about it. Most of what you're going to hear when there's a rebate voted on by the subcommittee, I don't think it requires plant board approval, but you'll just get that back to the report. That's kind of how and it's going to evolve as we go. This is all kind of new and we're all learning as we go. We got good people running the program, so it'll be good.
Thank you. Thank you. Cal, do you want to give just a brief update on what the changes are or what the foundation?
Yeah, and just by way of, I want to give you some background, I think, first on that. This program, Scott triggered it with the 30 years that he's been here. 30 years ago, the statute went into effect where we began the program in earnest. And, field work started right after that. We had some legislative changes in 2003 that went into effect 2004, and it impacted how the board was selected. We made our changes to our bylaws on that. These changes that just went into effect are just kind of administrative type changes. And so we will amend and update the bylaws to reflect the current statute that we have now on that. So that's just really the only administrative change for us. Operationally, the foundation continues on like it has. We'll have a little different tagline on our notices for board meetings and minutes and things like that. You'll see Mr. Stuckey will present those. So operationally, no changes. Administratively, just a few tagline changes. But for those of you that are new on the board, I'd like to emphasize, I won't get into detail now, but if you ever have a chance to sit down and listen or study the history of the boll weevil eradication program from an industry-wide effort and success story to how it was operated here in Arkansas, it is a case study of good lessons learned and examples from cooperation of growers, state agencies, industries, all the way up through. And then the technology that rolled out from biology to IT, what the aerial applicators were using throughout and how this thing was tracked. It was a phenomenal program. And just anytime you get a chance to get some history on it, it's worth it.
Thank you, Cal. Thanks for that. questions on the Bo Weevil, Foundation or subcommittee? Hearing none, we'll just continue with our agenda. We've got to authorize the expense reimbursements for 2023 for each board member, performing official duties. Do we have that somewhere? Or we just need to offer?
I think you're authorizing the future expense.
The future.
Correct, Wade? That's correct.
Correct.
For the next year.
Right. I guess we could have an action on authorizing ourselves to reimburse our expenses for 2023.
So moved.
Second that. Moved by Mr. Angel, second by Mr. Stuckey to authorize our expense reimbursement. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Reimburse ourselves. Any other business or questions, comments from the board members?
Thank you, sir. Something I forgot to do earlier, I've listed out a bunch of cooperators that we work with, USDA, EPA, so on and so forth, and I think I forgot our most important cooperator, and that is the U of A. 2 people on the board, people in the house. We work very closely in just all aspects of what we do at U of A. We've got a great relationship with them, and I can't believe I let you guys out earlier. Sorry. You're one of our most important friends and cooperators out there. I also want to recognize some staff I forgot to recognize earlier. Linda Lucky, into the table, Dana Jones. These are the administrators of all of the boards and commissions up here. They do the work. You'll get emails from them. You'll get copies of documents. You'll get stuff back and forth scheduling. They do a lot of work for y'all. And I want to recognize Nick, our IT guy. Jeffrey's not in the room, but Nick typically sits in and runs our Zoom for us. And this IT group, they brought us a long way in the last couple of years. They're a really good group. Other than that, I think that's it for us, Mr. Chairman. We're having lunch brought in. We're gonna have box lunches set up at this table right out here. There's an ice chest under the table with Cokes and waters. So you're welcome to grab a lunch, come back in here, take it to go, however y'all want to handle it when the meeting goes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, I think, just want to reiterate that glad to have the board back together. I know it's all probably new and a lot of information for everyone, and feel free to reach out to staff straight to give us any type of information you need from the section managers. Ms. Linda's great on helping us do everything at the meeting and keeps us in line and keeps our minutes straight. So we want to really thank her, and she's good to answer any questions we have. Of course, Scott can help us in any way. So maybe contact me. I don't know much, but I can maybe try to help find out the answer. So that's all I've got today. If there's any more business, we'll file one more business. We got to set the date for the next board meeting. Is it going to be a December meeting?
December, yes.
Yeah. So we usually try to do it early December just because of conflicts, later in the month. So if anyone has a calendar here.
Ag council meetings are 14, 15.
Ag council meetings 15. Looks like December 1's kind of out, and any Mondays look to be out. But how's that first week, maybe the 5th through the 8th, look for everyone?
Good for me.
That good with everyone? Tentatively, maybe
The
Tuesday at 9:30. Does that look good for anyone? Okay, so we're gonna say 9:30. Tuesday, December 5th, for our next quarterly board meeting. And with that, I think the meeting's adjourned. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for being so easy on scheduling. I know.
Recording stopped.